Do you find as a singer you still cringe when you hear your own voice?
No, I don't. Well, I'm gonna find out, aren't I? But
I'm talking singing voice though. Like when you hear your own records back, is there that little bit of your head that goes, that is really cringe?
Should it be? Are you hinting towards something here?
I don't know. I'm getting used to it, but like I still listen to my own records. I'm just like, that is so cringe.
Really?
Yeah, because I think it's a human nature thing, isn't it? It's like, I'm sure people listening will know the feeling when you hear your voice for the first time on something. You just can't get over that weird sensation of being like, oh my God, is that what I really sound like?
I think I do get that, yeah. But at the same time, it's weird actually, because I probably listen to my music quite a lot. I know that sounds does that sound quite egotistical?
A little bit,
but I really enjoy listening to my music.
I still love you though.
So for me, it doesn't. No, I don't think I do cringe anymore. In fact, I don't think I ever did. Oh, that's really bad to say, isn't it?
Well, it's a good note to introduce you on, because for people listening, like, welcome to the next episode of Code Talk, and this is my good friend for a long time now, Mr. Billy Lockett.
Hello.
We're in the cellar today.
Yes.
And I've got to say, what a space. Are you a bit knackered because we've been working on songs all day, and now we're doing this?
To be honest, not really. I mean, I find it fun. You know, the whole thing is like, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. There are times when it isn't fun and it is work, but 99% of the time it still is enjoyable. I think that's being unsigned as well does that, because you're free to kind of, you know, when I'm doing this because I want to, not because there's a label going, come on, we need a hit.
Has that made a difference? Because for a lot of people in lockdown, and for people listening, by the way, as I look around the room, we've got Space Invaders lit up, we've got lamps changing colours, we've got like drapes all over the walls. It's a vibe in here, isn't it?
Nemo.
We've got little Nemo here. Barney the cat's knocking around somewhere.
Mate, I tell you what though, this is my favourite, Monsters Inc., right? This is my favourite movie of all time.
Monsters Inc.
Yeah.
What's this guy's name again?
Mike Wazowski.
Mike Wazowski. We've got a big old Mike Wazowski.
But it's actually when he's a baby, it's Monsters Inc. 2, which is a shame.
We're going deep now.
No,
Monsters
do you know what?
Inc.,
They really let me down with that. You know, honestly, it became a kids' film. Yeah. And I know they're all a bit kids' film. You know, Toy Story's kind of like on the cusp. You know, it's fun for adults. But yeah, Monsters Inc. It just gave up on fans like me and just went straight for the kids.
So like when you're locked down and everyone's in quarantine and you've obviously now done what I think is the right thing to do, you've built a studio in your house, have you found yourself hitting the cabin fever? Are you like writing, recording, living, breathing, sleeping, and you've probably been here for months on end?
Yeah, that is my life. I mean, I was just talking to you actually earlier about getting a happy light, you know, one of those daylight things, because, you know, I mean, the days aren't that long anyway nowadays. You know, it's dark at about 4. And so I wake up, see daylight for about 5 minutes, come down to the cellar, and even when I go up for a break, it's dark, you know. And so, yeah, it's got to the point where it's weird. I've been doing this for about a year and it's been fine. And now
it's growing on you.
Yeah. Because I think before it was like you work all day and then you go out and you see your friends and you're a human being. Whereas now it's really tricky. I'm finding it hard to sleep, and I think it's because the evenings are the same as the days.
A lot of people have been saying this.
You know?
Struggling to sleep with the whole lockdown thing.
Yeah,
I think
you don't have a
losing
routine.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
You don't go, oh, okay, now I'm home, so now I do this, and then I cook dinner. And, you know, I mean, luckily Kirsten is kind of like, you know, really helped me get into that routine of like, okay, you know, I'm going to come over now we're going to eat, now we're going to watch that program we watch, and then we're going to go to bed.
So she's like your mentor, your
yeah, my girlfriend, my soulmate, my mentor, everything.
She does the schedule in the morning.
Yeah.
What's it looking like for Billy Lockett? Like, what's Billy Lockett's day sort of like looking like at the moment?
Well, to be honest, I normally wake up at her house because we don't live together now. I've just got a new house and she's moved into it.
Nice, congrats.
Which is great. It's just like we wanted more space, and we just thought, not as a relationship, but just more places to
I need
put
more space.
things.
I'm going to put you in this house across the street.
But it's silly, really, because I spend most of the time at hers, or she'll stay here. But yeah, normally once I'll just record and write all day down here, and then at 6, Kirsten will call me and say, right, we need to stop now, and because otherwise she's a workaholic as well, so sometimes we'll just work and work and work, and it's hard as well because I tend to do all my social media. I don't know about you, but I tend to do all my social media stuff after I finish work, and I don't include that as work, which I probably should.
Yeah, I think that's a dangerous game.
The whole you find you're working constantly.
I mean, we were talking about this earlier. The whole social game is just really weird now. There's really strange vibes. Everything that's changing. Everyone's seen the Social Dilemma that just dropped recently. That it's just like a mindfuck on so many levels of what's happening now. And it's like you say, yes, it is work. And sometimes what you think is like, I'm just going to post that on Instagram, and then you're thinking about it, and you're doing a copy, and you've got to link something, or you're promoting something. Before you know it, you spent a couple of hours just getting across your platforms.
Yeah,
and it's like a job. It's.
I mean, it is sadly half of the job.
It is,
really.
yeah.
And I always think to myself, like, I wonder what John Lennon's Instagram story would be, you know, or Bob Dylan's TikTok. What would that look like?
You know what? That's a sick idea to just start one and just like go through his lineage of like, oh, I just wrote a song today, you know, like just wrote Imagine today, and then drop it like the week, just some voice memos on an iPhone. Imagine,
yeah. I mean, I guess Bob Dylan probably could, you know, he's still alive, so he could do it, and it would probably go crazy. But it's interesting that's just a huge part of my job and your job that didn't exist for people with our jobs even 10, 15 years ago.
Is it something that you've been thinking about a lot recently?
Well, yeah, because it's kind of, I didn't really sign up to this to be funny, you know, or I would have been a comedian. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's why I do music, because I'm not that funny, or I'm a bit funny, but not funny enough to make money out of it. And it's like, you know, I think it's tricky because there's a lot of artists that are quite funny in music, and that's the way they've made it, and that's, well, not just the way, but it's helped them. And I'm like, awesome, that's amazing, but I can't do that, and I hope that the general public don't start to expect us to do that. You know, that no one expects a comedian to write a song. You know?
Yeah.
And it's almost part of the thing.
It's part of this really competitive landscape, because I do believe that a good song is always going to cut through. And you must have seen that with things like, I'm trying to think of the track you were showing me the other day that just grows on Spotify like every month.
Harder to follow.
Yeah. But that's a really good example. It's like, you're not posting TikToks or trying to be funny, but that song constantly has a momentum because people are sharing it and liking it. And I think that, I hear what you say, it's definitely a confusing landscape, but a good song's always going to trump things. And for me, as I watch you, and
it's nice to think like that, isn't it? That's all we've got. We've got to think like that. Yeah.
Look at what's happening with your streaming, and it's like, it does feel though that you are in, like, maybe it's fair to say, especially because we caught up recently, didn't we? We were on Instagram Live.
Yeah.
It feels like you are in some kind of like transitional part in your life now. Like, it does feel like you've got some real new energy now starting. There's a lot of good, like, I've been in the studio today, and I know that I can't share this with people listening, but a lot of the music you're making seems really exciting. It's like, sounds like you're on a really different track to where you were maybe a couple of years back.
I think being sober has helped with that, because it's interesting. Now I've got a clear head, I've still got all of the memories of when I didn't. So it's kind of like I can use the being a drug addict situation and all the crazy times, and probably mostly awful.
Are you going to go there? You're going to refer to yourself as a drug addict? Like, is that how you... Because having known you, I never really felt that you were that bad.
Do you know what the thing is? The only way I could quit was by calling it that. Because the reason I was becoming a drug addict was by constantly not thinking I was one. You know, everyone would say, you know, you probably need to cut down, you know. And this is the thing. What is a drug addict? It's someone who can't not do drugs, basically. You know, a lot of people...
You obviously just handled it really well, though, like a champion.
Well, you know what? Some of my mates were like, surprising, you were doing quite well considering. Yeah. And it's like...
I mean, James Corden flying off to LA doing some of the biggest TV shows in the world. Like,
I was on coke for everything. Everything I did, I was on coke. I mean, the thing about it is, I wasn't waking up in the morning and doing, well, when it got bad at times, that's when I would think, oh, better stop. And then it would go back down to 2 or 3 nights a week. You know, it would be every Friday night or every Saturday night. And then it would creep into being, okay, then it was a Tuesday and a Thursday and a Saturday, you know, and then you're like, hang on a minute. Then I'm either on it or I'm going to come down. And, you know, and most of the time it would just be an evening thing. And this is the thing. I want people to understand that it's not normal to do coke once a week. Like, that's not cool. I mean, it's not good for you, and it's really, really.
You're about to say it's not cool, kids. Don't do it.
No, but it's
it's cool. But like,
when I say
this
cool,
is the problem. It is obviously you wouldn't do it if you didn't have amazing experiences from it. But with that said, the trade at the end of the day, you've decided, look, as great as those times were, it's just not making sense for you with what you want to do, your ambition in life, where you're going.
Well, it was the thing is, it's not very well documented, this kind of alcohol and cocaine combination, because it's like with me, I'd never really had a big problem with booze. It was just every time I drank, I would then need coke. Like, it was impossible for me to not. And I started to think to myself, God, every time I've got drunk in the last 3 or 4 years, I've ended up being on coke.
But like, part of that, surely, when you take the inhibition away, you're more free thinking. You're just thinking, I want it, so I'm going to have it.
Well, sort of, but it's actually a different chemical in your body.
Right.
Cocaine and alcohol is the only two drugs, when mixed together, I think this is right, when mixed together, they become a different chemical in your system.
Yeah.
Whereas every other drug, you take it and it's that drug. You know, you can drink with shrooms and acid and all these other things, but really, they're all doing their own thing. Whereas with cocaine and alcohol, it's a specific... I think it's called cocaethanol or something. There's some name. I mean, I studied the whole thing because I was like, why am I not ever in, like, since quitting, that was the trick for me. Because, like, as soon as I quit the booze, it was a lot easier to quit the coke, you know, and I'm very lucky that I didn't have a real problem with drink, you know, because with me, it's like, you know, you go into a shop and there's booze everywhere, you know, and for me, I'm not even slightly tempted by that. Whereas if I'd gone into a shop and there was just coke everywhere, I mean, that'd be tough. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
a little bag just full of...
Yeah, so I feel really sorry for alcoholics because, you know, it's something so... Even, you know, you texted me a few days ago, like, so I'll come around, we'll do a podcast, and we'll have a beer afterwards. And it's kind of that thing of, it's so normalised.
We are British, though.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's like, imagine if it was like, we'll come around and we'll do a line. And that would have been totally normal, like, you know, 4 months ago. But it's just interesting the changes that have happened and how.
So, like, if you could walk me through, I mean, a lot of people listening to this are going to know you anyway, but like, try and paint the picture of Billy Lockett a couple of years ago that I obviously would have known. Tell me about, you know, you were signed, you were in one of the biggest labels, obviously, you were going on massive tours. Yeah. Then what was the transition like? So, like, paint the picture back then.
Well, transition in terms of my mental state or in terms of my career?
I'd say both probably come hand in hand, but like, because when did you get signed? When was that moment?
Well, I got signed when I was 22, 23, I think. Yeah, it was about 23. And if I'm honest, I signed too early. I just did it because if I'm honest, just wanted my mum to think I had a real job. I mean, that was really it. And I was just, you know, I'd been going for about 5 or 6 years, and I was just getting to the point where I was like, I just want someone to validate me in some way. Because how long, you know, there's something about being signed, isn't there? You know, you could have done nothing for 2 years, and you go up to one of your mates and go, I just got signed. It's like, wow. Yeah. Or you could have been gigging constantly, building up a massive fan base. But if you're not unsigned still, they're kind of like, oh, you'll get there. You know, like, it's ridiculous. So I signed, you know, and it was a slow start. It's interesting when you sign, you kind of think, all right, here we go.
Made it.
Now, I mean, and I wasn't exactly thinking I was going to make it, but I was definitely thinking something was going to happen. You know, like writing, or, you know, we're going to start releasing music.
There's an expectation set that you then have an engine that's just going to start shooting
or
behind you.
At least a plan.
Yeah.
You know, and this is the thing. A label is essentially just people who are paid to do the same things that your mate can do, hopefully better. You know, but what I found was worse. You know,
that bad.
It was actually worse, and you know, I ended up having to just go back to my mates who were doing a better job. I mean, this is a thing. You know, people that work in labels, they might not even like your music, and now they've got to tell everybody how great you are for the next 2 years. The whole system is flawed, really.
Well, it also, because I learned a lot from you through that process, and I learned a lot through other people, and it's no surprise to my listeners, I've always advocated independent careers, but the thing is, you have really smart gems of people that sit in those labels, but it is a roll of the dice whether you're going to get someone who's really smart, really switched on, waking up early so they can get in and do their job really well, or people who are sitting on Facebook half the day and not really giving a fuck about the 20 different catalogs that they got to try and push that week. And
that's isn't it? And
when
many.
When you're gambling, you either get lucky with a good set of people and you're killing it, or you don't. And I think good people are rare. They always are.
They are. And a lot of the time, even if you do meet a good person,
they might change.
They're not going to be in that. I mean, it's interesting. There's a photo of me when I signed. Me and my mum, and the whole champagne thing. Stood in front of that logo, fucking ridiculous. And I looked in the picture and I was like, oh my god, even a year later, not one person in that picture was working on my project.
Really?
No, I think there was one person, and he was awful, and I never even wanted him on the project ananyway.
Right, okay.
This A&R guy.
We won't name names.
Yeah, I won't say his name, but he was this young guy. Bless him. It's interesting. He didn't even know what he liked. Just as a human.
Yeah.
Not as an A&R
indecisive
man.
on every level, right?
He just sort of play songs to people and go, "Is it good?" It's like, isn't that your job?
And did that what was the effect for you? And bringing a bit of your personality into this, because I've known you for so long. It's I've always seen you as someone who, when it's right, it's right. But you are indecisive sometimes. So if you have a team around you where they're making you second guess stuff, that must have been a bit of a mindfuck for you.
It's hard because, you go on your gut feeling, and then I signed and I went on my gut feeling and then got told it was wrong for so long that I forgot how to even hear my gut feeling. And that's always talking to you. It's just whether or not you want to listen to it, really. And so I just kind of forgot what was good, and I ended up writing songs and then just sending them to the A&Rs and then going, is it good enough? And then they would go yes. They would go no, and then occasionally they would say yes. But it meant that when I left them, I was kind of like, oh my God, I've got to relearn what the hell's right. Because I'd forgotten. Because I'd been used to everyone telling me. It's a
subjective thing, isn't it? It's totally subjective. And it's I do find it weird when there are, and everyone can relate to this. Everyone can relate to having a gut feeling about something that is completely a creation of yours, which is completely subjective. There's no right or wrongs. It's a total grey area thing. And it's so weird when people come in and make judgment as if what they're saying is right or wrong.
A&R men, and it's hard for them. Their job is to basically...
Yeah, it must be hard because
they've got to find the majority, haven't they?
But at the end of the day, if they're signing stuff that isn't going to get through and working, then they're next on the line. And that's a heavy load to carry.
Do you know what? I think that was probably one of the problems, because I found it was a bit like politicians, really. No one ever wanted to make a decision, an actual decision. It was kind of that could happen constantly until something fell over the line.
Yeah, no one wanted to have that sort of backbone to go, whether this works or not, I'm going to back it. And
exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And so the problem was, when it went wrong,
everyone was on the fence anyway.
No one could blame anyone but me.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I get that.
And I'd be going, well, I told you it was shit. There was this one song that I wrote this song with a guy called Sam Dixon, amazing writer, and we wrote this really cool song called Feel So Good. And then, oh my God, we gave it to the A&R guys, and they sent it to this really cool producer in America.
See, I like this, and I know what you're going to say, but I like this song. I think it's a good song.
Anyway, sent it back, and I was like, and I instantly called my A&R guy, and he, the higher up A&R guy, the more senior one that had come on to sort of take on the project. And I was like, mate, this is a joke. It was so bad. And then it was just, the one that came out ended up being all right, but you should have heard the first mix. It was so shiny and cheesy and lame. And I said to him, I can't do it. And he was pretty much point blank, if you don't release this, I'm going to drop you. It was like that.
Fuck, that bad.
It's like, well, he was basically like, well, if you don't want to do this, why don't you go downstairs and talk to the head of the label and talk about going to a shit little indie, because we want hits. And it was kind of like, oh, God, I'm in this really awkward situation where this guy who's had tons of hits in the past is telling me that I'm wrong. And I've got no hits, and I'm young, and I want to learn. So I just thought to myself, you know what? I talked to Kirsten about it. I talked to my manager at the time. And I was like, I'm just going to do this.
And take a punt on the advice of people who know better.
It got to the point where I was like, I'm just going to stop.
Principle,
because I kept fighting, and then I got to the point where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do what they say, wear this pink fucking denim jacket and Converses up to your knees, and like a fucking tank top, like Yves Saint Laurent cap and stuff. Do all that, run around a cornfield, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do all that, but if this doesn't work, I'm off. And I tried it, and what happened? And it flopped. Every single song that they forced me to release, that my gut feeling said no about, flopped. And every song that I forced them to release worked. Fading into Grey, Empty House, Covered in Chaos, all of those, they were my babies, and I really wanted them to work, and they did. And now they've all, together, they've got like 20, 30 million streams. And even...
That's a big moment as well for like, there are... I say this all the time, but for the musicians who are watching and people who are artists, because I know that there's some people who connect with this, it's like, what you're saying is such a big couple of years to learn from, because you can't rewind that. And I have to say, like, I align with so much. I've been in parts of my life where I've had those mentor kind of people who have been like, look, this is a smash, trust me, this is going to work. I know you're not so in love with it, but put it out anyway. Yeah. And every time you do, there's whether it's just the universe teaching you a lesson because you haven't got that 100% conviction in it. It's always the surprises that you just create. They've got some heart and soul. You throw down a good vocal that means something, and people can hear those subtle differences in lyrics and the way singers deliver stuff.
It's just gut feeling. It's like, I think that's the hard thing. A&R men don't really choose songs on feeling, like, because they've never really written a song, so they don't really understand that. I mean, sometimes you do get a great A&R man. To be fair, there are times where artists, are in a bit of a mess, and A&R guy can go, right, that producer, that song's bad, that song's good, cool, and it works. But I think with me, I was an album artist, and I knew I was going to be a long journey. I still feel like I'm at the beginning of it, even though I've been doing it 10 years.
But
I want this to be 40 years.
That's kind of where the transition comes in, right? because you've been signed, you go through one of the, you kind of got upsold to one of, was it Parlophone?
Then we moved to Parlophone.
But this is it. So then you went,
just passing me around like a joint.
But this is it. You couldn't have gone bigger in that system, and then all of a sudden you clean yourself up. You quit the drugs, you come out and you go, right, fuck all this off. Let's start again.
Well, I had when I left the label, I did have a year where I really went for it with the drugs. Like I remember. I really tried with that. Yeah, I nailed it. Yeah.
But also, like, it was a weird time, because I think, like you say, that's where, in a way, you lose that validation all of a sudden, and it's like, well, hold on, now I don't have someone to tell me that I'm good or bad, and then you've got to realize you've got to orientate yourself on your own key principles, and your own key principles are in the fucking dust anyway, because you're not sure.
Well, I sort of knew what I wanted to sound like, but I was unsure it was going to work, really. And I think this is another problem that people do sometimes assume with drugs, is that, when everything goes really badly, you get into drugs and then you become a mess. If anything, for me, it was when things went well and I was on top of the world, and I wanted to have fun. I wanted to enjoy myself. When things were going badly, I kind of thought, okay, I need to sort my shit out. I need to work out what the hell to do. I need a clear head.
So is that what triggered your process?
I got dropped, but I didn't see that as a bad thing. I saw it as an amazing thing, because it was like a relief. It was like, oh my God, I can put out music I want to put out, and they've given me my rights back, and everything's brilliant. And then, I mean, we were very lucky, because I begged them to put out this song called Hard Act to Follow for ages and ages, and they were just like, yeah, it's a good song, but no, basically. And so when they dropped me, I then put out the song, and like 2 weeks later, James Corden emailed me.
How does that happen? How does James Corden just drop you an email and go, hey Billy, I heard your song?
Well, I actually wrote the song with a guy called Andy Burrows.
Right, yes, I'm with it, yeah.
Who is he was the drummer in Razorlight.
Yeah.
And when Gavin and Stacey were really big, Razorlight were big. Mm-hmm. And so I think that Andy and James, they're like family friends. Like, right. I think Andy's wife is best mates with James Corden's wife, and all their kids are mates and
so
everything.
It's quite a hookup. So then Andy basically passes this over to James.
No, Andy went there and messaged me saying, hey, I'm with the Cordens at the moment, and I'm going to play them the song. Do you mind?
Wow.
I was like, absolutely play them the song. Jesus.
Man, what did it feel like when you got a call when James Corden said, I want you to come on one of the, arguably the biggest show on American television?
Yeah, I was on a bus, actually. and I saw the email, and then I just looked at the woman opposite me and screamed and just went, "I'm going to be on the James Corden show," and she was like, "Amazing!" and then we just hugged. I mean, you'd never be able to do that now with social distancing, but we just hugged. I was just hugging this stranger on the bus.
Amazing.
And then I just sort of ran off the bus and ran to Kirsten and told her, "Oh my God, like this is going to happen." And my manager was calling me, like, she was talking so quickly, and then she just stopped and went, "Oh my God, I'm so excited." And she's like a robot normally. She's like straight, never shows emotion. But she was like, "Oh my God." But then it was kind of like, oh, how the hell are we going to pull this off? Because
what do you mean by how are we going to pull it off? Like,
we've got to get a visa, and we've got like a month
in terms
or
of
two.
logistics. Was it that quick? So it was like he made the decision he wants you on the show. You have to be in LA a month later to go and do the.
Yeah, well, I mean, he said, "When are you next in LA?" But I was like, "Well, when do you want me?" Really?
Yeah.
And I think we had two months or something, or two or 3 months to get everything sorted. But I mean, it was crazy, like the process that we had to go through. It was like thousands of pages long, you know, and it was because it was a certain type.
When you say that, what in terms of like
the application
for visa or to go on the James Corden?
No, the visa.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we had to have a visa because it was on CBS, and you know, you can't go on TV unless you have a work visa.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Even if you're not getting paid, it's like a it's like a rule, is it? Yeah.
Oh, it's a rule. Yeah, and I couldn't do it on like a what's it called? Is it an
you know what? I wouldn't know, but I know what you mean. A visa that basically says you can go there and ESTA or something.
ESTA, that's it. And we tried all these different options, but it wasn't going to happen. But it was perfect because, like, you know, the single had just come out. It was completely like independent. Like I still own all the rights to it and everything. And it's luckily, thank God, it's been my biggest song, and it's totally changed my life, you know, in every way.
Cheers to that, mate. Cheers.
Thank you.
Because it's well deserved as well.
Cheers. Thank you. Yeah, it's great. I'm so. You spend your whole life finding the hit, and even though it isn't a hit, you know,
they're we live in a world where different ways now, aren't they? It's like, what do you call a hit? Because you know,
it's given me a house.
When you have millions of people streaming your stuff on Spotify, so I'm pretty sure it's.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different level now, isn't it? It's you know, back in the day, it used to be you're either massive or you're nobody, whereas now it's kind of Spotify has given people like me the chance to have a good career and not be and still be able to go to, like, you know, Sainsbury's.
Yeah, man. But this is also why the part of what we're doing now, obviously, in part of like this podcast, is I've always wanted to. Even if we go back, I've always preached this. I think a long time ago there was
you
this.
You were preaching it to me.
Yeah, like I mean, how long have we known each other now? Far too long.
10 years?
Yeah,
maybe?
And it's just like, even back then it was like, holy shit, when stuff like Spotify works, like when music rights don't have to be put through this like massive canon of a major, it's like, you're going to have everyone being able to just release music and it's going to stream and then they can keep their rights. It's like, it's so exciting where this is going to go, because for me, when you left the label, I know that you were in a bit of a rocky place about the whole thing, but I knew that this was going to be good for you. And what's going to happen now as you go forward is like, I mean, how do you feel your productivity's been since you got clean? Like since you...
It's been, it's a different world. It's not really so much my productivity when it comes to my music, because that was something I always loved doing, even though the thing about Coke is it's like, it's an ego boost, and anything that's going to accelerate you, it's a very selfish drug, and anything that's going to help me feel better about myself, you know, I'm going to really push on. And that was kind of, so the music was never the problem. It was everything else in my life that was crumbling, that I didn't realize, like the beauty of like my friendships and my relationship, and just feeling good about yourself and not feeling guilty about anything, and actually like getting pleasure in being a good person, you know. And it's like that thing of when I was a drug addict, it was kind of like what was I going to say? I've totally lost my train of thought.
Good to eat your mic.
Yeah, it was kind of like this karma thing. That's what I was talking about. I never believed in karma, because I always used to just be a dickhead and do all the wrong things, you know, all the wrong things, like, you know, oh, don't take drugs because it'll be a problem. Yeah. You'll ruin your life, you know. And all of my ex-girlfriends used to just cheat on them. I didn't care. And I was just an arsehole. Like, I'd always just shit on people. And I always thought karma doesn't exist because everything's going right in my life, you know. And then now I'm like, no. karma doesn't exist, but it's a way of you making sure that you're a better person. You know, that's the point of it. I was missing the point. I was seeing it as
do you still think karma doesn't exist?
I thought it was a science that's bullshit, and now I'm like, no, it's a way of life.
I'm a very scientific man, you know that, but I so believe in karma. I just think there can't be any other way that the universe can function. It's like, if you're just going to be a dickhead and shit on everyone all day, every day, it's like, it's just a matter of time before your world gets a little like smellier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it did. I guess the thing is, you have to go on experience, and at the time I was like, God, I think I was also very angry about the whole situation with my dad, and we never really got on that well, and then he died, and I felt like it was just, the whole thing was just really frustrating. And it's interesting, a lot of therapists and rehab things that I went through countless times, because, you know, I was trying to quit for years, you know, quitting takes a long time, you know, it's almost like a relationship, really. It's like, you know, when you break up with someone, you probably were breaking up with them for about a year before you did it, you know, and it was kind of that with me. It's really it's hard to explain, but nowadays I'm just so grateful. I can't believe how good life can be, and I totally forgot the importance of being a good person and being like happy with yourself. You know, it was kind of, for me, everything was about how everything's going on stats. That's how happy I am, what my career's doing. But now it's about, you know, how do I feel today? And you know, did I help my friend yesterday when she was having a bad time with, you know, with a family issue or something? You know, and that makes me feel good now. Whereas before, it was kind of like, what's the point in any of that? You know, I know that sounds crazy to think, but sometimes
I kind of think that
you
so
forget
many
that.
people are going to be listening to this going, yeah, they can kind of see where you're coming from though as well. Maybe that's just a natural.
It's so
part
obvious
of,
though, isn't it? Don't be a dick. It's obvious.
I know, but we're all born dickheads, aren't we? And then at some point in life we figure out that you can't just be a dickhead all the time. And then
at some point you do. I think that was the thing. I started to see my whole life falling apart, really. And
in what ways though? Like what came?
Well, my manager my manager dropped me because she just couldn't really deal with my mood swings were all over the place, because you'd either, when I was in the quitting process, I'd go for like 2 or 3 weeks of quitting and be very agitated. And then when I was on it, I was constantly like calling her all the time and just coming up with new ideas. And I was a nightmare.
Just a bit intense.
And I apologise to her, because it was a hard job, like managing me through that time. But yeah, it's a totally different world now. It's strange. My new managers like have no idea how easygoing I am now.
It's just a nightmare beforehand. It's good though. Like, I'm trying to think. Is this around about the time when you came down to mine when we had that session?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, because I lost Helena. I lost my girlfriend. That was the thing. You know. Yeah. I could see my whole life crumbling a little bit, and
because I have to say, like, if I rewind my whole life and I think, who is the saddest person at the saddest point, I will think of Billy Lockett that day when you came down to my studio. I was like, I've never seen anyone that sad.
I just lost everything.
Like you were holding your gut because it physically was hurting.
Yeah,
that's how sad you were.
And it's interesting to think. You know, I'd lost my girlfriend, I'd lost my manager, my house was falling apart, my career was dying on its ass, and I kind of always just blamed it on specific things about those situations. Like, me and my girlfriend didn't work because she's got a new job and she's changed and she's done that and she's done this, and my manager isn't good enough and she can't get me the right festivals and she's not pushing the right people, she doesn't know enough contacts. And it was down to me handling everything badly, because I was always on a come down or I was fucked. So really, it was. I know it's weird that coke ruined my life. Like it's all stemmed from that.
Stay in school.
Because when I stopped, everything became a lot easier. You don't feel like you're juggling life. You feel like you're enjoying the struggles and the processes. And nowadays, when I feel bad, I can really think about it and go, okay, well, what in my life isn't right, and how can I fix that? Whereas before, it was like I feel bad because I'm wasted, and everything else I can't even notice what that feels like, because the come down is just too much. Because it is a chemical in your brain, you know, that you wake up and I remember the last time I actually did it, I went for 3 months and then I relapsed, and I remember waking up I didn't really wake up, because that's the thing with coke, you just sort of, it's almost like you're dreaming while you're awake. That's the only way I can describe it. You're just buzzing. My heart was going crazy, and my roof of my mouth felt bloodshot, and just the bags under your eyes hurt. They're so big, they hurt, and all of your skin is just like itchy. It's just it's so horrible. And my mum called me to talk about something work related, and I just sort of explained to her that, and Kirsten was really mad at me because I'd fucked up and done it again. And my mum was just like, "Why don't you just stop?" And it just sounded so easy, and I just felt so bad with myself, because it's like I'm being such a pain in the ass. Something that everybody in the world finds so easy, I just can't do. And there's so many other things in my life that I've been able to do that no one else can. Like, some of the things I achieved in my life, people spent their years trying to do, and something so simple like not taking coke is just impossible. It was just impossible. And then, I'm bursting into tears and just crying down the phone. And that was probably the first time I'd cried in like 10 years. I didn't even cry when my dad died. I'd been waiting for that moment to cry, and even then, it wasn't really a cry. I was almost trying to squeeze a few out just to get some release, really. It's just something I sort of forgot how to do 15 years ago. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, this is it now. Like, this is it. And so far, so good. It's been 4 months. And the difference with this is I've gone public with it. Because for the whole, everyone like that's heard about this will be in shock, because I was a squeaky clean profile. You know what I mean? My fans were young. Yeah, and I didn't want anyone to know about this side of me. I kept it very quiet. And then I knew that if I was to say to everybody, and it was on my birthday, and I was like, you know what, this is my first sober birthday, and I'm going to really try. I've got a problem. And now I just feel like I've got such a bigger chance of quitting, because I'll be letting all my fans down, and myself, and my there's just so much more to lose than when it's just your own internal don't do it.
So is that one of the things you would say to people who might be aligning with those struggles, is like, just basically talk about it and make sure you're anchoring?
Or accept that it isn't normal to do drugs. I'm not talking, I wasn't a heroin addict, and don't get me wrong, I'm not, crack and heroin is a different world. I mean, it's not miles away. I'm just saying, that one night a week of getting drunk at the pub with your mates and then having a line, honestly, it can so easily slip into being 3 nights. And then instead of going to bed at 3, you're going to bed at 5. And instead of getting 2 grams, you're getting 7 grams. It's in the space of 5 or 6 months, that can turn into your life. And, you have to accept that that's a problem.
That's money as well.
Oh, dude, I've got this app on my phone called I Am Sober. And
does it tell you how much you save in money?
Tells me how long. I'll get it. Oh no, it's my phone's over there. Yeah. But I looked this morning, and it was like, because I've gone 110 days today.
Right.
And I've saved 3.5 grand.
Wow.
I was spending, and this is the thing. You say wow, right? But that's not much, man. That's like £1,000 a month, which is only 200 quid a week, which is 2 grams a week.
One of the things you're still calculating your budget in terms of grams. Though, mate.
I'm still an addict in here, man. That's why I've got to be careful.
It's also like things like today, isn't it? It's like, because when you're doing that 3 nights a week game, it's like you're not getting up like we did this morning. Right, let's get a song in the bank. Like maybe get 2 done. Like, do this podcast, and then it's like, okay, maybe we'll get back in the studio after this, we'll keep working. So it's like it's not just the money, is it? It's like the days, it's the productivity,
and it's also your shit as well. Your shit when you were awake.
And it's like the compounding effect, though, isn't it? It's like that productivity, day after day, week after week, month after month. That's what a lot of people are seeing now with you. It's like you've now got this momentum shifting thing that's happening.
Exactly, but I think it does take time, obviously, and also I hope that I don't end up just falling it. my worry is that I end up being boring and old. You know? Like, I'm not saying that drugs made me young and cool, but it was that party lifestyle. It was everything else that came with the drugs. And, you know, the fact that you would stay up later and you would drink more and you'd end up in a weird house and meet weird people and all these things. And every time I look back, it's like I actually cringe at almost every moment I've ever had on coke. Like, I really, it was a weird thing with me. It was like that first line, like, so, you know, anyone who's done this will know exactly what I'm on about, but no one ever talks about this. But you go to the pub, you've had 2-3 beers, maybe you shouldn't have had your third because you were going to go at 2, but you had your third. You know, you go into the toilet, you bump into your mate, he goes, do you want a key? Which is like a key in a bag. You're like, well, it's only a key, I've got to be back at 11, it'll be fine. You have a key, you do the key, you come back outside, you walk outside to the smoking garden, you're about to light a fag, you're 3 beers in, just out of line, all your mates are laughing, and it's fucking bliss. There's no, and don't get me wrong, that moment's amazing, and it will always be amazing. But from then on, it's all downhill. You know, all of a sudden it wears off and you go, oh, who's got the bag? Is it you got the bag? Yeah, oh, he's got the bag. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, he's giving it to his girlfriend. Oh, she does loads. Keep an eye on her because she's always fucking finishing the bag off before anyone else. And she didn't even pay for it. She never pays for it. Blah, blah, blah. Then all of a sudden they get in a row because of coke and they'll start arguing. So they run off so that you don't even notice because you're wasted talking to some random guy you don't know all about yourself. You know? Then he gets bored eventually. You find your mates, you go back to a kitchen table and you do the same thing for like the rest of the night. And
it does have that tendency of like literally dictating that social circle from that point forward.
And that's it. And nothing ever comes. You'll probably end up playing your demos. Anyone who's a musician will start playing their songs that haven't been heard yet, telling everyone how amazing they are. You know,
that was you, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, like, anyone that I did it with, it would end up be just in a kitchen somewhere playing demos. He's just like, what? I'm better than this, man. And like, you know, nothing good happens after 2 a.m. You know, it's like, well, maybe 4 a.m. Unless you're at a festival. But yeah, it's just it's a different way of life, really.
Good.
You know, my mates come over now and then they go to bed at like we all just, they leave at about 11 and we go to bed, and it's beautiful. We wake up in the morning feeling great. And I can't believe I'm that guy now.
Preaching about it as well.
But it's so good.
Come on, guys, sleep's amazing.
Seriously, man, like being able to sleep and just have an appetite again and be happy. That's the thing. Good. When everyone's on coke, nobody laughs. Everyone's talking about something deep. You know, like, yeah, like my parents split up and it was hard. Or this is what I'm going to do with my job. You know, no one's saying, oh, do you remember that really hilarious time that like so-and-so did? None of that.
Everyone's what's the word? Meditating on their own shit.
Yeah. It's tough. But cool.
And the good thing is you don't feel the need to talk about cocaine at all these days, do you? I'm joking. But like you just
I have to try and sort of.
No, but it's
almost like I'm keep reminding myself how bad it is so that I don't do it.
But it's also like one of the reasons why I really wanted to do this, because obviously we had the writing session booked in a while. When we had our catch up on Instagram, I'm like, I want to document this point in time in your life.
Yeah.
Because I've learned shit loads about it anyway. Like even when you had your heartbreak and we ended up making some songs and that, like, that whole process. But like, you're right. It's like as you went out and you were chatting on Instagram. This time
last year, wasn't it?
I think it was. Yeah. Wow. When we wrote Wasting Time, which is doing pretty well on Spotify. Just dropped, didn't it? So go and stream that shit. But this moment where you have gone out on your Instagram live and you're talking to people about it and you're just being really honest and really transparent. You can't really go too far wrong from here.
Exactly. You can only be yourself, you know, and it's an interesting thing with that whole gut feeling with music. It's like, if you put something out and you love it and your gut feeling said yes, if it flops, well, it's okay because you've got a success. You've got an achievement. You put out something that you really believed in and you'll always love that, you know. Whereas if you put something out that you don't love and it flops, you didn't even love it. What the hell? You haven't even got that.
Yeah.
You didn't even like it. And now you've got some shit song that everyone knows and you didn't even like it. So at least this is a way of kind of going, and it's strange, like nowadays, like we've just recently changed singles. Like we're supposed to put out, we had a single that we were going to put out around Christmas. And then last minute, I just felt, no, I want to go with this song instead.
And you can do that now, yeah.
And I can do that now, firstly. And I said to my managers, you know, how difficult is it? Has it been ingested into the system, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, hasn't, but are you sure you want to do this? And then I've kind of listened to the other one and I was like, oh, but it is good. And then suddenly I thought, oh my God, how am I going to sort this? And then I just stopped, listened to my gut, and it instantly said the in between. It said, this song, this is what you got to do. So I went, yep, we're doing that. Whereas before,
you'd have so many
that would have been
cooks
2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
That would have been 2-3 weeks of me just constantly going, what should I do? What should I do? Talking to, everyone's got a different opinion. Oh, what's right? Whereas now it's like problem solved. And that might be, that might not do as well as this single, but you'll never know either way, so you may as well just go, what's the point in worrying too much about that? Just go with feeling, because we're lucky enough to have jobs where it's all about feeling. That's literally the whole point. All essentially we're doing is trying to make nice music. We're not saving any lives, really. We're not like a doctor. It's not needed, but it's not like a necessity.
Could you imagine though if like you put a verse in the wrong place and someone
died? As I was saying that, I was thinking, actually, I guess some people do message me saying, I was suicidal and your songs helped. God knows how my music helped their suicide. I thought it would have made it worse.
That'd be fucking terrible, wouldn't it? But you're right. I've got a business partner of mine in Holland. He's just such a legend. His name's Marcel Jansen, and he said this one sentence to me ages ago, which is, I'm sure, is some old adage in a different variation, but he just said to me, Mark, in business and life, yes is okay, no is okay, maybe you're dead. And I thought that stuck with me so hardcore, because it's like, yes, if you sit in this like limbo, la land, not quite making a decision, it's like every second that you're in that limbo, and don't get me wrong, sometimes you need to sit and think of a fucking decision. I'm not saying just live your life,
be impulsive,
but it's like, especially when there's not a right or wrong anyway, just go in a direction and adjust and make the decision. And music is full of people just like us, sitting there second guessing constantly. Like,
it's hard, isn't it? Because so many people like send me tracks going, oh, what do you think to this one? What do you think to that one? And you
just want to go, well, what do you like?
Exactly.
But again, we need the validation, just like you're saying. Like,
you need that validation, but at the same time, it's hard as an artist to learn to trust your own opinion. And I think now that I'm producing other people, it's given me the confidence to almost produce myself as well and say, what should this be? Because so many people rely on my opinion for their songs. It's like, why can't I give this to myself?
But it's the same for anyone, whatever job people are in, the clothes that they might wear in the morning, whether they're wondering whether they should, I don't know, ask for a promotion or whatever. It's like always, well, what do you think? What do you think? It's like, and we are just so programmed from the start of our lives, aren't we, to have the validation and approval, and really you shouldn't do something unless at least there's a consensus that says you should do it, because it's hard, isn't it?
But every time I've done something on validation, it's gone wrong. Yeah, it's even back in the day when you're in relationships and you don't really get on, but you really fancy each other. You know that, and your mates are going to be like, oh wow, you're with her. Yeah, no, it's as shallow and simple as that, all the way to signing a deal because my mum would care more. Things like that. And it never really works. Again, you've just got to go by that gut feeling. Maybe I should call my album Gut Feeling. No. I was thinking of calling it like Long Story Short.
Nice.
But I'll probably just end up calling it Billy Lockett.
Billy Lockett,
That's the
number
thing,
3.
isn't it? You go for all these names, should we just call it your name?
Self-titled.
Maybe just Lockett. What was I saying? Lost my train of thought.
Well, I mean, look, basically you're in a...
Yeah, it's the validation thing, of kind of doing things for the wrong reasons. And now I like to think that I live my life always kind of doing what feels right, and why am I in this situation, because of these various reasons, and it's the right thing to do. Whereas I think before, especially with the drugs and everything, it was kind of just like, what's everyone going to think would be like cool for me to do? Like, I was always thinking about how everyone else is going to see me.
See, I still think I'm in that trap, if I'm being honest.
Really?
Like,
I guess it's fine if you haven't ever discovered.
No, like, in a way, because like, even as you're saying that, I just think that I try, and like my ethos is always going to be to try and just do shit that makes me happy and all the time, and I'm definitely better at that. But like, I am just a sucker for giving a shit what people think. Yeah,
well, I guess we kind of have to in a way, don't we, with our jobs? But because obviously, if everyone hates what you're doing,
then you literally don't.
Then you don't have a job. Yeah. So it is hard for us, isn't it, to constantly have to, this is an interesting thing. Do you reckon you'd have or be anywhere near as active on your Instagram and Facebook if you weren't doing music or you weren't promoting yourself?
I've had this conversation at length, and I genuinely believe if I wasn't doing music, I would never touch social media. And because the thing that a lot of people don't necessarily know about me, and I don't talk about it often, is the digital agency. And I know we've spoken about it before, but I got involved with digital marketing very early, and I'm connected with a lot of very smart people in digital marketing agencies and social media platforms. So I've had a very, very close look at what they're doing, and it is shocking. And people have seen the social dilemma, and they've seen the stuff that is public, but when you see what they're doing behind the scenes and you see where they're going in the years to come, it's chilling. So no, I wouldn't touch it, and I think that it's part and parcel with a career in anything nowadays. Because
but what do you mean? What obviously you probably can't tell me what, but it can't be any more than what are they going to do? I always think, why would they care? Why would they care about having all my information? I'm not important enough for anyone to give a everyone knows everything about everyone. It's like, I'm not very important, whatever.
Because it's absolutely not about you in a singular sense. You're right. What's your data worth? Nothing, really.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, me and you, we're little specks in the ocean.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But if you can control the ocean...
Well, yeah, but I mean, if anything, the ocean has always been controlled. It's just the people controlling it are different.
I think...
it was BBC, and it was the magazines and newspapers before, and then it was...
I think it's a very different thing when you start involving... and again, like you say, as if I can't talk. It's not like I'm MI5 or some shit.
I agree with you, by the way. I'm just being devil's advocate here.
But if you, and you can sort of mark my words, because obviously this is a podcast that's going to be going out, but you will see these platforms begin to dominate in very important economic games when it comes to the retail space, when it comes to things like the live music market is a silly example, right up to some of the biggest, the biggest kind of...
They're becoming shops, basically. They're going to become... the Walmarts and the
exactly. They're gonna be brokering their lovely little deals and transactions with the banks and the biggest credit card companies, and before you know it, they're gonna understand everything about every product that solves the margin that those products are at, and then they're gonna start squeezing that, and they're gonna. But
haven't shops done that just with records of what they're selling in their company?
Well, here's a good example, and I know we're going way off topic here because I really want to talk about you. So, but this is kind of interesting. But it's here's the difference. If me and you have a shop and we set up in Northampton where we are now, and we go and see, right, well, my shop better be good because I've got to compete against your shop, right? And if my products are better, then hopefully, if my service is better, then in this capitalist game that we play, my shop's going to do quite well. And if you just don't give a shit and you don't care about your customers, you're not going to do very well. The difference between when you have infrastructural systems like this coming into place and observing not just you, but observing your customers' behavior and observing what they're willing to pay for the product and observing what you're willing to sell it for and observing, well, what margin would you be happy with against what one would put you out of business.
I'm the customer, basically.
Basically, everyone's the customer. And when it comes to these systems coming into place going, okay, I now know exactly what this guy can sell this product for to make just enough money to stay in business but not enough to go out, and I can basically chunk the rest of it in my back pocket. It's a completely different game of competition. It's not even a competition anymore. And what that does as a knock-on effect to essentially global economy, the global economy is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I hate to be a doomsday sort of person because
I'm kind of obviously it's kind of dumb to be optimistic about it, but I'm intrigued to see where this all goes. Just I was quite intrigued by this whole lockdown thing, just to be like, okay, this is going to be unusual. I wonder what's going to change.
Yeah, are we going to be throttling each other in?
Yeah. Because I've got to admit, I mean, I sound probably 100 years old right now, but just before lockdown, I kept saying this to Kirsten, I really felt like I didn't like the world I lived in terms of, I didn't really get it. I didn't understand so many of the things that were taking over, like celebrity culture and music, and I just felt so
disenamored.
Yeah, I almost just felt like, why is everyone so different from me?
It's because we're getting old, mate. 100%.
But then weirdly, when lockdown hit, it kind of made me realise that, oh wow, we are actually all so similar, really. Like we all really care about, you know, all the same things, really, deep down, and we don't live that different lives. Weirdly, I felt like the world kind of reset,
a bit,
reconnected, and obviously it's awful, and I'm in a very privileged position where, you know, I still got my job, and you know, I mean, it could have been a lot worse. Lockdown could have hit me in a lot worse place. But at the same time, I think there is some good to come out of this. You know, and there's probably a lot more good than people might think. It's just going to take time, and I think we were getting to a point where everything was getting a bit mental. Yeah. Like we had to, like, you know, just before lockdown, everything was amazing, and then it went bad. Everything was pretty mental, like before. You know, this was just another thing. But now I feel like we're getting in a good. Like Brexit seems to have gone very quiet. Trump's out. You know, there's a vaccine. Things look okay now. I'm optimistic.
What have you done with Billy Lockett?
No, I'm just looking at the facts of, like, you know what? When something awful happens, normally that's when things really start to go well. But for me, you know, when my dad died, you know, everything was terrible for maybe like half a year to a year, but then things started to really work, and I got signed and everything happened, you know. And then, you know, when I got dropped, it was like everything was pretty bad, but now we're looking at an optimistic world. I mean, excited by the future.
And I agree, man, 100%. Like, I've always felt that. I think that what's happening with our awareness of climate, what's happening with our awareness of, like, healthcare professionals, like what we're seeing.
And everyone's so much more liberal now, and everything, you know, non-binary is a totally normal thing, and it's great, and people are allowed to be anything they want. I think there's a hell of a lot of good. The whole Black Lives Matter movement, I mean, that's been going for a long time, but now it really feels like it's sticking and becoming such an amazing movement. And it's interesting. It's kind of an artist was saying it to me the other day, actually, you know, Billy, like, we're white, middle-class, male singer-songwriters. This is a tough time for us, you know, but I'm okay with that, because for years and years and years, we have been so privileged, you know, and had everything. And it's great. I feel like there's no way I'd want to go back even a year ago. The whole world was different. You know, and I'm just thinking, wow, like, imagine what it's going to be like in 5 or 6 years, how amazing this planet could be. You know, just thinking about, it's crazy. Like, even when you're watching, like, James Bond movies from the 80s, have you ever watched any of those?
Man, that's quite a segue.
How how sexist they are, and how normal it is, and how outrageous some of the things that people say in movies. Even like 5 or 6 years ago, when you watch a movie, and you're like, why is that? Why have all the females in this movie got no character? You know, and it's like, whereas nowadays everyone's so mindful of that, and it's great. I think. But it's
like, I was having this chat with a friend of mine, Kelvin Jones, who was the last podcast that we just did, and it feels like what we're saying is like there's a feeling of rising tide lifting all ships vibe now. It's like the opportunity is now real, and it's getting much more. I mean, we've still got a long way to go, but like, it's feeling like the equality of opportunity is really starting to actually make some genuine progress now, and it's a really exciting time, because when that happens, it's like that's when we all get to see the real talent out there, and there's so many exciting artists coming through. And you're right, I love the positivity of it, because it's easy to forget, isn't it, that we've got good times ahead.
I don't think I mean, obviously you say, obviously I'm not racist, obviously I'm not sexist, but I don't think you realise how, just in the way you live and the way your brain is kind of almost wired because of how, you know, from you growing up.
Like that institutionalized bias kind of thing.
Of like, you know, I had a female manager for 4 years, and it was so interesting to see how badly she was treated, and we were both treated by a group of like middle-aged white men in a label, and it's really interesting to see the difference of how, you know, I mean, sadly it still is, but the difference how my current managers are, you know, middle-aged, middle-class white men, and it's really interesting to see how much more respect they were given by the industry than with Helena. You know, there were times when, and you know, and Helena's had to go through that for her whole life in an industry where it's unusual to be a woman. You know, and Corden, she's marketing at PS and a record label, and she's lucky that she's just started on that wave of equality, because for so long, you know, the music industry, I mean, it still is very heavily dominated by men, but we are moving closer to a better, a more fair end. Well, not end, but just a more fair life. But the amount of times, like, we had to really fight, and thinking back, I never thought it was sexism, but thinking back, it's like, oh, actually, that probably, you know, they probably wouldn't have shouted at her as much if she was a man. Like, it's really awful. You know, because I talked to male managers, and they're like, "What? They shouted at you?"
I was going to say, it's a bit deep.
I know, but they would. They'd scream down the phone, like scream at both of us, and it's hard, you know, when you're kind of trying to make decisions with a group of people who already innately are wired to feel like they have more
it's a
right than you.
Yeah.
You know, it's like whether or not I mean, obviously they probably didn't mean to, but it's just how it was. You know, you never had a meeting with, you know, 5 women and 5 men in a label. It was always all men. It's like really, really strange. But, you know, it feels like it's getting better.
But this is, and again, when we start looking at what you're doing with your career moving forward and the team that you can build around you, it's like the sky's the limit, and the choice is going to be based on people who you get along with and who are most competent. Well, that's the thing, is that
you can choose your team now because you're paying them. You know?
Yeah, but like when we start to think about what's on the horizon for Billy Lockett, like where do you see yourself going now? Like when we do this again in like 5 years' time, where are we thinking you're going to be?
I hope not in a hole. I mean, I think I just want to see how happy I can possibly be. I mean,
mate, that's cringe, but I like it. I like it. I know.
I just want to see just how good it can get, really. I think I'm going to finally actually do an album. I know I've been talking about that for like 27 years now, but I am going to do an album.
Yeah.
So I'm releasing this EP, then I'm going to make the album, and I'm just going to see how big we can make this without a label. Like, all my fans are like family. I've sort of grown up with these people for like 10 years. Some of these people, like, and it's weird, I've only met some of them 2 or 3 times at shows, but I really feel this connection now just because it's been so long, you know, of doing this.
But also, you know, that support is probably at times what has kept you going, right?
Yeah.
Because like
they mean so much to me, you know. Yeah. And I spend I spend every evening replying to every single comment. And obviously, I know that, you know, it's for the algorithms help and all that stuff. But really, I get this like pit of my stomach feeling of like, I just don't want to be rude, and I really want to like talk to them, you know. And I know that's kind of sad, it's basically names on a screen, but, you know, I'm replying to everybody because I want to have those conversations, and it's like, oh yeah, Joanne, oh cool, you know, how's your so-and-so, how's your son in uni, or like, oh, how's your daughter getting on, like, doing music, she started to pick up piano last year, and she's still doing it, all these things, and like, it's so connecting.
It's a beautiful thing, man. It's like its own family, and it's like, just the stuff you can learn, the network.
It's just being nice. It's just people, isn't it? It's like replying to comments used to be sort of like work and a ball ache, but now it's quite nice because it's like getting to just talk to people for a few hours. Especially with lockdown, you know. Yeah. That's the only way we can really connect.
So it's like, so you see yourself moving forward now. You're going to create the album. You're going to build this tribe. You're going to focus a lot on that. I
mean, obviously, I want more fans. Everyone wants more fans. I bet even Ed Sheeran wants more fans.
You've got a lot of fans.
I've got a lot of fans, and I'm nearly at the point where I can not worry at all. You know, all through my life, and you're probably the same. But, you know, you put a record out and you just worry that it's just not going to go right and you're not going to get anything. And I still have that feeling. When I put a record out, it could still flop and it could just suck. And I'm really looking forward. That's my sort of goal, really. It's not really a Brit Award or, you know, do O2. Oh, I've actually done O2. But all of those things, they're not really important to me now. I just want to be able to not have to panic that it's all going to go wrong and I'm going to be a failure. And I'm nearly out of that now. Yeah. I think I've done almost enough achievements in my life now that when I tell my grandkids, you know, what I did, I can be proud of it. That's really like the main goal, to not be like, yeah, but you didn't really do that well, Granddad. You know, it's like, oh God.
So, mate, I played the O2 Arena. Thank you.
It's
very
like,
much.
yeah. Like, I just want to be able to have done enough that I can be like, it was. I mean, it is worth it anyway. You know, it's like we don't. My dad used to say this: we didn't choose to do this; it chose us. And if we had a choice, we probably wouldn't have done it. But I have no choice. I have to write songs. I have to make music. You know, I have to do it. And the fact that people want to listen has always been mental to me.
Well, I mean, there are shitloads of people that want to listen, and including me. I'm looking forward to the album coming out. I'm so excited with what you got going on. And I really appreciate you doing this as well. So we'll do this in 5 years' time when the O2 Arena is called the Facebook Arena or whatever it is, and then we'll see where we're at.
The Facebook Arena. Yeah. Oh God, is that a little hint to what's to come?
I love that. If I play this back in 5 years, like, oh shit.
How did he know? Yeah.
But no, I appreciate it, and it's an exciting times, and I'm looking forward to releasing more music with you. But yeah,
thank you, man. It feels like your project's going great as well, man. And you were the one who told me about this independent route, you know. And even when you played one of your songs on Spotify, you're like, oh yeah, this reminds me of one of my tunes. You played it, and I look, and those figures are big, man. And like, you know, there's million numbers on those.
Million numbers, the big ones.
Yeah, and it's just like,
lots of zeros.
And I just looked at that, and I was like, man, you just got up a tune, and it's like 1 million plays. And I'm sitting on, you know, millions of plays as well, and we just take that for granted. Like, oh yeah, cool, yeah, play that one. Yeah, we should do it like that. It's like, you know, even 4 or 5 years ago, we would have dreamt of this. It's good to try and, you know, it's always good to just like sometimes look around and smell the bacon. Don't get complacent and think, oh yeah, I've made it, because I don't think I'll ever feel that. But there is something very healthy in just going, everything's okay and I'm doing all right.
Yeah, I spoke about this with Gareth Emery, and it's like taking that time to have that mantra of just absorbing and taking a moment, just going, you know what, it's really, really important for anyone listening. It's just like, especially if you're working really hard, especially if you're like just running 1 million miles all the time, you got to stop now and again and just go, you know, life's good. Life's really, really good right now. We've got a lot of opportunity. Everything's good, you know, and I guess now it's time to eat some pizza.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is indeed.
Are you hungry?
Yeah, I am starving. Yeah, I've just had this one other thing. I was talking to my mate about this, of like, I feel like we're in this position in our careers where like you spend about 8 or 9 years getting to this point where you're okay now.
Yeah.
Right.
You can survive on music,
but you're knackered.
Yeah.
And so you're like, you've waded through that desert, and now you're finally making a little bit of money, and it's all right, but you need to regroup, recharge, have a nap, eat some food. You know that you're not there, but that's you know, you need to get to that 50, 60,000 mark, but that's another time. You know, let me just have this moment of not having to kill myself. Yeah. You know? And you're like, and then you get
maybe that's what this whole lockdown's been about.
Yeah,
and
I think it is, yeah.
Just slowing down a little bit, and now we can regroup and
it's about stages, isn't it? And with artists, you kind of don't hear about them until you only ever see the end product a lot of the time. A lot of people think, you know, that's that classic thing of like, you spend 5 years to be an overnight sensation. But when you really think about that, like, you know, the struggle is it's an incredible thing. And I think that me and you really have had journeys. Like, you know, you've been 3 different band names. I've got you saved in my phone as 3 different bands.
It'd be a waste of time otherwise. It's got to be a struggle.
Wasting time. Out now.
Yeah, that's it. Stream it.
But it really is hard, you know. And you have to really, really know that you desperately want to do this.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, because
I think it requires some level of insanity to try and become a professional musician.
If my son came up, right, when I have a son or a daughter, sorry, there you go. That's that institutional. Oh, sorry.
Stop the cameras.
But if they come up to me and say, you know, I want to be a musician, Dad, I'd be like, absolutely not. No, do you know what? I'd be like, all right, play me something. And if it's not good, I'm being honest.
You'd probably be like, all right, I tell you what, write a song a day for a year. Yeah. And then if you can do that, you might have a chance.
You know what the hard thing is, if you're like, I feel bad for the people who are quite good, because or even like, you know, it's so difficult because we're in a job where like, even if you're incredible, you still probably won't make it.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that a nightmare? Like, if you were the best doctor in the world, you'd have a great job. Whereas, you know, it's that thing of like, McDonald's is the most successful restaurant in the world, but it doesn't mean it's the best. Yeah. So it's a shame. So you just got to plod away. If everyone's watching this and they're a singer, just don't quit. Just keep doing it until eventually everyone's just sick of you failing and they give you a chance. That's what we're doing.
Dude, thank you so much for doing this.
Cheers.